All right, you guys. My husband has a serious sweet tooth. I mean, serious. To the point where I tell him all the time that he is addicted to sugar. And of course, he's always denied it until he decided to do this no added sugar thing a while back. He didn't change anything else. He just cut out anything with added sugar. And guess what? He lost 20 pounds. 20 just by eliminating added sugar. No crazy diet, no counting calories, just removing the ridiculous amount of sugar that gets snuck into everything. And that's when he finally realized that what I had been telling him all along, sugar is in literally everything. Bread, sugar. Salad dressing, sugar. That healthy yogurt, sugar. Ketchup, sugar. So much sugar. But then, life happened. Work got stressful. He went on his annual fishing trip with the guys where, let's be honest, zero healthy decisions are made. And just like that, he fell right off the sugar-free wagon. So recently, just the other day, I brought it up again. I said, hey, maybe you should try that no added sugar thing again. And let's up your protein while we're at it. Do you know what he said? He looked me straight in the eye and he said, I can't, because the cookies you make at home are too good. I literally cannot not eat them. So basically, my cookies are so delicious and are single-handedly preventing my husband from making healthier choices. Now, to be fair, I do make a pretty good cookie, but I mostly make them for my son, who has a really physically demanding job. But still, I get to struggle. Now, sugar, it's not a problem for me these days. I can bake all day long and not eat anything I make. I have always been more of a salty sweet girl. If they're combined, I'm interested. But these days, I lean way more into the salty and savory side of things. I could have an entire batch of cookies sitting in my kitchen and not even think twice about them. Now, my husband, not so much. So to that end, I decided to turn to AI for help. That's right. I asked ChatGPT to give me a high protein, low sugar chocolate chip cookie recipe that still tastes like a real chocolate chip cookie. Because I have tried myself different recipes that I found online, and I've even experimented on my own, and none of them have really been it. So now I've seen mixed opinions about AI generated recipes. Some people swear by them, others think that they are absolutely awful. And honestly, I have no idea how ChatGPT comes up with the recipes. I assume it pulls them from various websites, then throws something together and just hopes for the best. So today, we are running an experiment. We are going to find out together if this is actually a good cookie recipe or if it is going straight to the cookie graveyard. Now, just to be clear, this is not a keto cookie. So if that's what you're hoping for, I'm sorry to disappoint. But it is actually lower in sugar and carbs than your typical chocolate chip cookie. So here's what I specifically asked I can't talk today. Here is what I specifically asked ChatGPT to use. Hold on. I asked it to use Make Believe chips because they are sugar-free and they actually taste good, and I had some on hand. A monk fruit allulose blend instead of regular sugar because, again, I had it on hand. Molasses because brown sugar has that deep, rich flavor, and I wanted to replicate it without the added sugar hit. And now here's where AI made some interesting choices. It chose almond flour and oat flour. I was fully expecting it to use regular flour, but apparently AI has decided that this was the way to go. No idea why, but we're going to roll with it. I just made my own oat flour by putting some of my oats in the blender. It has protein powder because, protein. Now, we are going to take a look at this recipe and see if it's actually going to work. Okay, so I need you guys to kind of bear with me a little bit because I've only done one or two of these other recipes before, so I'm not really sure of the layout or anything or how the best way to do this is. So I'm kind of winging it here a little bit, but we're going to go through the recipe now. The recipe calls for 1.5 cups of almond flour, which again, kind of surprised me. But almond flour is it has a lot more protein than regular flour. Then we have a half a cup of oat flour, which again, I just used regular oats and blended them up in my blender. Then we need 1/4 cup of a protein powder, either plant-based or whey protein powder. What did I just do with it? Oh, I put it in there already. That was not my oat flour. That was my whey protein powder. All right, so there's my oat flour. And I've already done the whey protein powder. Then we need a half a teaspoon of baking soda, excuse me, half a teaspoon of baking soda, and a 1/4 teaspoon of salt. Now we are going to whisk this all together.
A few moments later.
There are all my dry ingredients. I probably could have chopped up my oat flour a little bit finer, but we'll see how this turns out. There are all my dry ingredients. For the wet ingredients, we need a 1/4 cup of softened butter, one-1/4 cup of a monk fruit allulose blend. I get mine from Amazon for now. Then we need 1 teaspoon of molasses, because I didn't want to add brown sugar, and every good cookie, I'm sorry, needs brown sugar in it. All right, and then we need one large egg at room temperature. And the recipe called for 1 teaspoon of vanilla extract, but I'll be honest, I use 2 because I use a lot of vanilla extract. Move this over. Okay. All right. It's kind of runny still, but I was expecting more butter in the recipe. I was expecting at least 1 stick of butter in the recipe. I am probably going to continue to fast forward through this recipe just because I don't know what I'm doing. So in terms of video, in terms of baking, I know what I'm doing. All right, now we will add our dry ingredients. Oh, and I don't know if I said it or not, but I have already preheated the oven to 350 degrees. All right. Looks a little doughy so far. Looks like dough. Then I'll add my chocolate chips. Again, I usually add a lot more chocolate chips than this, but we'll see what we get. Now, allulose, we'll see how these come out in terms of color, because allulose tends to brown a little bit easier or a little more readily in the oven, so you kind of got to be careful. All right, there's what the dough looks like. Now we will put it onto, clean up our mess here, and put it onto a baking sheet. What to do with it? Ah, here we go. All right, it specifically says to flatten it because the dough will not spread very much, which if you've ever baked with almond flour, you know it does not. And again, I'm going to speed this up a little bit. But first, I should probably come around and turn the camera down, so you point the camera down so you can see what I'm doing. Because let's be real, you're not here for my face, you're here for the cookies to see what they turn out like. I don't know, but there was a chocolate chip in that one other than maybe 1. So we may end up sticking a few more chocolate chips in some of these cookies. All right, it said I was going to get 12 cookies out of this. I'm going to get more than that. So obviously I'm using a smaller scoop than they intended for me to use. Yeah, I'm definitely going to stick more chocolate chips in this. I do not like to leave any cookie dough behind unless somebody is here to eat the cookie dough in the pan. All right, those last few cookies need some more chocolate chips. So let's do that. And forgive me, I hate the sound I truly, truly hate the sound of paper rattling in a microphone. So I'm probably going to end up cutting some of that out. One of my pet peeves. I have some weird quirks, I'm sorry. Okay, so if this turns out, I may end up adding maybe half a cup of chocolate chips instead of a quarter cup. This just is not enough chocolate chips. There we go. Here's what they look like. I am going to pop these in the oven for 10 to 12 minutes, I believe it said. Yes, 10 to 12 minutes in a 350 oven. I'll be right back. Okay, so here are the cookies. They just came out of the oven. It says to let them cool for 5 to 10 minutes, so we're not going to try them just yet. But they look good. I'm just not sure I'm going to be thrilled with them, but all right, so while those are cooling, I'm going to go through what this gives me as the macros, which kind of surprises me a little bit because this tells me that the macros per cookie based on 16 cookies that I got there. Did I get 16? 12, 13, 14, 15, 16. Yes, I did. Based on the 16 cookies that I got there, according to this, these high protein, low sugar cookies have 145 calories per cookie, 1.4 grams of protein, and 3.7 grams of carbs, where a standard chocolate chip cookie, now not the cookie that I normally make, but a standard chocolate chip cookie, it says has 150 calories as opposed to 145, 1.5 grams of protein as opposed to 1.4, and 22 grams of carbs as opposed to 3.7. So these might actually be more of a keto cookie, I guess. Because it says here, your cookies have almost the same calories, but way fewer carbs. However, the protein is only slightly higher than a standard cookie. If you want to boost your protein further, you can try increasing protein powder or adding collagen peptides. We'll see how it tastes here in a minute. And my son will be home shortly, so I'll ask him his thoughts on it. But according to this, I'm thinking I may just try doing a regular chocolate chip cookie. We'll see how these taste again, but I will just, if the protein count and everything else is the same, I may just try doing a regular chocolate chip cookie with my allulose and molasses and just regular flour because it doesn't seem to make that much of a difference. So I'll be back in a couple of minutes and we will try the cookies once they have cooled. All right, here's the cookies. This is them. Maybe not horrible. I don't know. Let's see. I have water here though, in case they're dry and they make me choke. But all right, here goes. And you know, I apologize in advance. I am one of those people who cannot stand watching people eat on camera, or listening to people chew on camera. So please let me apologize in advance, but I got to give you a real-time reaction to these. All right, here we go. Okay. First, they're not cookie texture. It's more of a kind of a cakey texture to it, which I should have expected from almond flour. I was kind of hoping the oat flour would give it a little bit more of a crunch to it, but it doesn't. They're not horrible. And if you are craving a cookie, it would probably suffice for you, I guess. And it's not terribly, terribly sweet. I'm curious to see what my husband or my son say about it, because again, I don't eat a ton of cookies. But I'll give it, as a cookie, I don't know. If I put my cookies on a 10, which I'll be honest, I do, maybe a 5. I don't know. But again, I don't eat cookies. So we'll have to wait and see what my husband or my son say. My son won't be home again for another maybe 45 minutes or so. And my husband will be home in an hour or two. So we'll see what they say about them. I'll try and get at least my son's reaction on camera. But I don't know, if you're really desperate for a cookie, excuse me, if you're really desperate for a cookie, it might work, but I don't know. I'm of the opinion, for me, for me, if I eat a cookie, if I want a cookie, I'm going to eat a cookie. I just don't want a cookie very often. So, but it might do. It might do in a pinch. It might do in a pinch. There is no aftertaste. There is no horrible texture. Like I said, it's just kind of cakey. If you want me to try, I'm going to play with AI, I think, quite a bit more and try some other kinds of recipes. If you want me to do any more of that, let me know in the comments. It was interesting. I will post the recipe down below as well, and maybe you could tweak it or give it a try yourself, see what you think of it. Don't make a double batch though, in case, or don't make a full batch, just make the smaller batch, just so you're not wasting a lot of ingredients if you absolutely hate it. I don't hate it. I don't love it, but I don't hate it. And in a pinch, if you are low carb or if you are doing something like along those lines, it would probably satisfy your sweet tooth. So give it a shot and let me know what you think. Stand offside. Okay, so my son doesn't want to be on camera, but he is trying one of the cookies. So
Yeah, they're good.
you think it's good?
Yeah.
Really?
Yeah.
You like the texture?
Tastes like a fluffy cookie.
Sweet enough and everything? So you would eat these?
Yeah.
Okay, you want another one? Okay. All right, well, there you have it. He thinks they're better than I do. Thank you, babe. Well, there you go. Both my husband came home and he tried them. Both of them have tried it and they both liked it. So what do I know? You know, my son's sweet tooth rivals my husband's and he loves cookies. So if he says it's a good cookie, I guess it's a good cookie. Again, I will put the recipe down below in the description box and you can give it a try. Thank ChatGPT if you like it. Just a reminder, these are made with almond flour, so you may want to refrigerate them so they don't soften too much. That's the one thing I don't like about baking with almond flour. You know, I think I am going to try this again with regular white whole wheat flour. That's what I usually bake with, and some protein powder and see how that turns out. Maybe I'll record it, but either way, I will let you know. For now, I will just say bye again, and thank you for watching. Take care of you. See you next time. Bye-bye.